Oh boy. Good morning, dear, beautiful Andrea. So thank you for your voice message. Um, that was I'm so grateful to hear your insights and your experiences. And that's very interesting that you ended it at 9:33. Because at I guess it would have been 9:29 your time. I heard that it was, well, I was asked to pick a prize for Earth. And so I knew that we had succeeded in what we had done. But before that, it was so the whole day I was pretty much spent preparing for it because I knew that something big was about to come. And so I did what I do, which is when something big is about to happen, that I feel I need extra energy and boost. I open a portal. I was guided in how to do this by when you break glass, you open a portal. And so when things are very important, I haven't done that much, I guess maybe about 4 times now, that things that were really important. But so I did that this morning or yesterday morning, and I went to my grandmother's grave where I had a crystal ball, and I swapped it with another one. And so I cracked that crystal ball, and I've actually done that before with her too. Before my dad died, I had another crystal ball in her grave, and so I opened that one. Anyways, and then I bathed, and the water that I used, I watered all my trees and the plants and things, and so the way that I had envisioned it was nothing like how it turned out. I allowed myself enough leeway time to just really relax into the space. And so I hiked up to this remote-ish place on top of the canyon where you're just like, the sky, you can just touch it, and it's like a panoramic view, and that's what I envisioned. And so I brought all my stuff up there, the crystal ball and my selenite wand, and just, everything I thought I would need. And I thought I was going to be up there for hours. And shortly before I arrived, I started to attract flies. And once I got there, they just wouldn't leave me alone. And there was just so many of them. And there was a part of me that was like almost, oh my God, what's going to happen now? And so ultimately I decided to abandon ship and go back home. And so now in this period of time, it's like, okay, gosh, that's, it's a half hour back home now. And so it's sort of like, it was cutting into the relaxing into the space vibe that I wanted to just so like be prepared, but in this way I thought, oh no, I can't risk it. And so I scrambled back down and made it back to the yurt, and by the time I set my space back up, which is like underneath my tree here and on this hill, and it's my magic hill. It's a hill that that's seen me through a lot. But so once I got up there, I didn't really have that much time left, and so I could feel myself like thinking, oh my gosh, you need to hurry up and relax because the curtain's going up at 6:00. And it was one of those realizations where you're like, how do you switch from like where your mind is just like going all over the place, and you know that you have to, you know, like this is the moment, you know. And there was something that I've had these, I don't know if they're just visions or ideas, dreams or whatever, but I always felt like there was going to be that one moment, you know, that one moment when you were going to get a shot, you know, to really show who you are. And it was in that one single moment that it was going to be make or break. And so it's getting like really close to 6 o'clock, and I think maybe only about 10 minutes before that. And what I realized was, because I looked at my tree, I was standing next to my tree, and my cat, who died in January, he's buried there. And what I had never seen before in the bark that like reeled me in was I saw a dolphin. I saw a very clear dolphin that I've never seen before, and that was the spark. That was the portal that opened for me, because I knew in that moment what I had to do. And it wasn't going to be what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be up on that hilltop, you know, just being an energetic conduit as light was just pumped into me. On my phone, I even had, you know, my daughter's name and emergency contact, because I thought if I don't make it, you know, if I'm dead, they're gonna have to know who I am and what. And so I put that on my phone before I went up there, because I didn't, you know what was coming. And when I saw that dolphin, all of a sudden I knew that everything that I have been training for, all these teachers that I've had, that I've asked to come forward, they represent everything. They are, like, that dolphin was to me the ocean. And I've just had a recent experience with jellyfish that were teaching me and guiding me just in the last couple weeks. And so it was like connecting with the jellyfish energy and the octopus energy and the shark, and just the intelligence of the ocean, which is just 7 miles from me. But then everything else that I have been taught by, and it is the elements beyond, I mean, it's beyond the magical kingdom. It's beyond the fairies and the angels and the aliens. It's the earth, it's the tree, it's air, it's fire. Like, you know, we had our fire here in the canyon this year, and last year especially. But this year I was like, okay, I'm going to learn from it. So I had a fire party in the yurt. You know, when my area, Topanga Canyon, was being threatened, because that was what I was like, I don't, fire is not the enemy, and it's the teacher. And so that's when I realized I had to call in every modality, every essence. But what I ultimately came to understand was I had prepared for that moment without even knowing I'd prepared for that moment. So part of what I had done yesterday too was I made a playlist of all these songs that I felt would connect me to this purpose in a higher emotional sort of way. And so what I came to understand, just, you know, minutes before 6 o'clock started, was something that I knew when the fire hit the canyon here last October. And I decided I was going to turn my phone off and I was going to face my own mortality. And it wasn't just that we had fire here. We had the Santa Ana winds that were racing. And when that happens, it's just like boom. And so I learned so much that day about me and death. But what I recognized was, I don't know how many hours into it, maybe a couple hours into it, when I was just like, every time the winds would rage, I would just be like, oh my gosh, this could be it. They could be hitting me. And I made a pact, no matter what, I was not leaving. And that's when I realized that I don't have to just sit and wait for my doom to come to me. That I can affect the situation potentially with my magic and with the connection that I have with, the earth and the air and the elements and intuition and tapping in and psychic and all this kinds of stuff. And so I was up there and I was wielding, I was affecting, I was influencing, that third element, and it all turned out amazing. And that's what I did with this, is that I recognized that I am for whatever reason, I am sort of like, okay, we're going to hold up one person in humanity, and this is going to be the decider, because what I recognized, not immediately, but as it was unfolding for me, but I recognized, and this is something that has been coming into my consciousness, when Adam and I were in Las Vegas and he was helping me, he had ideas about things that I was having ideas about. And so what I recognized was, whenever Earth has been in these moments in history when we've had the ability to blow ourselves up, we haven't. And Adam was talking about one of the pivotal moments was JFK and Khrushchev. Is that right? I am not good with history. But both of them, it was like the Cold War. Both of them had the potential to, just everything ended, and it didn't. And it didn't. And so what that had said to me was there was a third influence that nobody knew about, that made those two men shake hands and understand the grasp of what was happening. And for me, that could only mean aliens. That could only mean that a third element came through to affect Earth. And that's what it felt like was happening yesterday. There was this moment when there was the light and the dark of Earth, and we needed a third element to decide which way it was going to tip. And so it was like one of these, okay, we're going to give her 1 day's notice, and then we're going to let her, which was me, they're going to let her form her team. And then we are this third element, this alien element or influencer, outside influencer, is going to be looking at me and my worth. And so what I did was, so these trees and all this space on my land, I had hours before that watered it with my bath water. I mean, this area knows me so intimately. My cat is buried right there. I have herbs growing on top of him. So like right before 6 o'clock, I took some rosemary and some spearmint and some thyme. I plucked the leaves off and I was eating, because it was like I knew that his body was underneath that, and my tree is right next to that. Like all this is right there, and so I knew what I was eating. It was almost like I was fortifying myself with not only the earth, but with the love that I have for him, the love that I have for this canyon, the love I have for everything that has been teaching me. And what I came to understand was the reason why I, for whatever reason, was chosen was because I have been completely surrendering any kind of direction to these unseen energies that I mean, if you look around the area that I live, you know, that hill and in the yurt and all around the yurt, it's just like an explosion of imagination, creativity, things that I like built and designed, and everything that came to me in inspiration, because it felt like it was a necessary part of the step, the procedure. And so I had these songs playing, and what I did was I immediately disconnected from what was, you know, the pressure of what was happening. And I just was like, okay, if you, knowing all that you know, if you can just let all that go, the importance of this moment, and just connect honestly, emotionally, purely with the area around you, connect with love. And I did. I mean, the music obviously helped me, but being in my own area, that empowered me. It was like that, the Navajo elders kind of thing, you know, and I just surrendered. You know, I had people driving down below and honking and waving, and it was like, okay, so you have all these, you know, you are in an area where your community is watching. And so is that going to hold you back, or are you going to do what you need to do? Are you going to completely swan dive into the emotional experience of what this is? Are you going to show whoever it is that's watching how much you trust and how much love you have for what has been like the earth and all of it? Are you going to let that move through you to a space of emotion and dance and movement and celebration? And it was like, yeah, I am. And so that's what I did. I just sort of like forgot that the cameras were on, the cameras were rolling, and I was wielding who and what I was, and thanking and bringing in everything around me, everything. It's almost like I was the matchmaker, you know, between the sky and the trees and the canyon and the earth and all of it. And you know, as I was looking around and I saw that I had, you know, all these elements all around me, you know, I had the water. I had these jars of water hanging from my trees, colored jars of water with flowers in them. And so I was looking at the earth and the air and the water, and the jar of water that was closest to the, you know, the apex of the tree was orange, and that was my fire. And so it was like, I knew it was all there. And you had, it's almost like charming a dignitary, a foreign dignitary, and saying, and being like, this is the best that humanity has to offer. This is the purest sense of surrender. And this is what can be created in that space of surrender. So when 9:29 your time, 6:29 my time. Okay, I didn't know. I had no clue how long this was going to last. 6:29 my time, I had this like that it was over to a degree, and I was I heard that I was to pick a prize. I was to pick a prize for Earth, and I did. The prize that I picked for Earth was a world where we wouldn't need money. And people could just do what and I didn't continue on that thought, but it was, people didn't have to work, they didn't have to be distracted, they didn't have to earn a living. Their survival was met, money is the means of how to survive. And so that was at 9:29 or 6:29 my time. And so I continued in that space for hours afterwards, just enjoying the company and the attention. And it was so profound for me. And it was one of those sort of situations where, I didn't even know if I was doing it right. But it was like, at some point you have to just trust. And this morning, I still, I got your message, and I was so glad to hear that you had experienced what you did. But I didn't, there was a part of me that was like, well, I'm not sure if I did it right, or if I just imagined all that, and was I delusional in all that I was doing, and how will I know, and blah, blah, blah. And so I just walked outside, because I wanted to go up to my hill and get my crystal balls. And I had, at 6 o'clock, I had both of those crystal balls in my hand. I had the one in one hand and the other in the other, and I was, I had like a Native American song that came on. It was like this goddess chant, and I was dancing around, like in a circle around my tree in the kind of hey-ya, 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 hey-ya kind of ways, like we were kind of bobbing up and down and walking, like up, forward and backward, like where it's just like this sort of rhythmic kind of like earth and chanting, and I had one heavy crystal ball in one hand and a lighter one in the other. And it was like that my grandmother she was in those crystal balls, and all my magic was in those crystal balls, and so it was like the way that it all evolved was just so profoundly personal for me. I had everybody, and so I after I got your message and I went up to the hillside and I had my coffee making, and I was just like, well, how will I know, how will I know if I even did anything or if it was even real? And as I walked up the stairs and I saw the sun just coming up beyond the horizon, and oh my gosh, it was intense, like in a soft way. It was huge. Like the rays that were coming off of the sun were just like somebody magnified it. Like it was just pulsing in this huge way, an expansive, huge way. And it was just like, it made me cry. Because it was one of these things, like, seconds before that, I'm like, how will I know if this even worked? And so that was there was more, but that was basically the gist of it. And so I just wanted you to know that. Thank you so much for being a part of it all. Okay. Blessings to your morning. Oh boy. Here we go.